and 80,000 for Gilbo. And then in 19, we have,
So Gilboa's being done in 2015 for public, okay.
commercial is 15, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, and Gilbo's 19.
19, and there's a possibility, I mean.
Or
there is-
17, pardon me.
All right, but there is a possibility of a parking garage.
We're going to, excuse me, Mr. Chair, is that okay? We are sensitive to the fact that we do have money put aside for that lot, that we will coordinate that with. If we do have a parking deck that's coming, of course, we wouldn't put a lot of money into that area. We'll keep it going, keep it safe. But if we do have a structure going there, we wouldn't want to put a whole lot of money into that lot.
Okay. One other question, and that'll be my last. I'll make sure it's not a leading question, Mr. Chair. I'm sensitive to that. Last time. In your discussions with the downtown merchants this week, there's a Sentinel editorial, and this is a concern I've heard. Merchants are saying, well, the editorial said that spaces have been robbed due to the construction of the new fire station, and also railroad land development. There's actually an article a few weeks previous, called Parking Protest. It came out in a Sunday edition. That was a news article, but this was the editorial. And my concern is, because I'm hearing some folks say, well, this is a reason why the rates need to go up, is because there's less spaces, there's more of a premium, and it's a way to compensate and afflict, financial distress on downtown merchants. But my understanding is when the fire station was built, didn't parking increase actually?
We had a net increase of 9 spaces.
Of 9 spaces.
During that construction
So what
process,
was presented in the editorial in the newspaper article a few weeks prior is not actually accurate? Would you share that?
Yeah,
opinion of mine?
when we originally did the construction at the fire department, one of our charges was to try and relocate as much parking as we could. And once we looked at the operations and how we did parking, working with the Public Works Department, the Keene Police Department, and the Parking Division, of course, I was the fire chief at the time that was working with that process, we were able to have some new ideas, put some reserve parking on street, and we had a net increase at that point of 9 spaces throughout the area.
Okay. So it's not because there's less parking, that has nothing to do with the rate increases. They have to do with these attachments and the projections and, the fiscal realities of what's going on.
Our actual meters and reserve rates have not decreased or increased in the last 3 or 4 years, only by a few here and there.
Yeah, we've been hearing a lot of talk about the revenue and about reserving parking spots. And I went through the budget book, and there's 6 places, 5 of them are lots and 1 are on street, where there's reserved spaces for the public, not counting the employees. And the city collects about $110,000. So that comes to about 750 to 800 reserved parking spots. So when it's like Depot Avenue, Elm Street, so there's a lot of employees going out and reserving parking spots for the employees, or other people are reserving parking spots, because we're looking at about 750 to 800 parking spots. If the reserve is we're getting $111,332.
I would have to get, I don't know the exact number of the reserve spaces that we have.
Put in that
I don't believe
generator.
it's that high. There's a different rate for covered and uncovered parking rates, fees. So I can get you that number, though. I'd much rather give you an exact number than try to guess this evening as to what that is.
But part of it is some of the businesses and stuff are working with the city to find spaces for their employees and find spaces for the customers.
One of the things that's happening now with my position, it kind of lends to, if you recall, the old position that they used to have a downtown coordinator. I'm not the downtown coordinator, however, my position does lend to being able to be a liaison between the city and the downtown merchants, to be able to work with them, to help them with their ideas, and to, again, try to move forward some of the things that they're looking for. Already, we, just at the meeting the other day, there is a map that is developed by Mark, and I cannot remember his last name, I apologize. He does the downtown animated mapping, and we went over the parking areas. We are going to better identify where the parking is for when people come into the downtown area. We are going to look at our parking signs in the area to see if we need to increase or improve our parking designating signs, because they can be difficult to see sometimes if you're not really looking for them. So we want to be able to improve our parking experience. We want to be able to provide the people coming into town that don't know where the parking is a less expensive opportunity, if they can, that someone who's going to spend 4 or 5 hours here in the downtown area. And that's one of the downtown merchants are really looking forward to that, because the more time that they spend downtown, the more chance they're going to come into their store.
Thank you. Thank you.
One last question.
Sure. It isn't though.
It isn't? Some anecdotal information came up several months ago when we were talking about parking. We're talking about sometime during the 90s or thereabouts, we did an experiment where we just took down the meters, and the downtown merchants demanded that they return. And I've been looking through minutes, and you know, there's hundreds of them. And you know, I thought maybe at first it was just the city council and then maybe municipal services, but then I went through back at the time we did have a parking commission. I just can't find the darn things anywhere, and I'm sure that they're there, you know. But I was just wondering, was it the 8th?
It was the 8th.
Oh, so we probably,
Keep looking.
I didn't look far enough. I didn't look far enough.
If I might, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I can supply you with a copy of those minutes. It was 1986.
Was it?
And you're absolutely correct. The Parking Commission and the city decided to have a trial basis, and the merchants, prior to the trial ending, was back in front of the council requesting they be reinstalled, and the parking division be reinstalled so that we had some turnover. The exact scenario that Councilor Greenwald described earlier occurred, where residents, employees, and employers were taking up the parking spaces in the area, and they weren't getting any turnover. So they requested to be replied, and I believe Councilor Greenwald was actually on the commission at that point.
And also a downtown merchant.
So that, you know, because I've heard over the last month since this issue's come up that it's possible that, you know, gosh, maybe we ought to just not even have all of this parking regulation and such like that downtown. And so I was just sort of looking just for my own satisfaction, you know, to find out if there is any real information rather than anecdotal, because a point was made that, you know, we do give free parking during Christmas for a couple weeks, and it doesn't seem to cause any problems, you know, as far as turnover and such like that. So it's just reassuring to know that there is actually something back there that shows us that we need to have some sort of regulation, some sort of parking sanity downtown with you know, anyway, never mind.
I have, just as a comment to that, if I might, Mr. Chair, you're absolutely correct. During Christmas, it is free parking, as you do not have to plug the meters. However, we still manage to make sure that we have the 2-hour limits. So that's why we still continue to get the turnover, because we're enforcing the 2-hour rule.
Any public or other councilors present like to chime in? I don't think, yeah, while you're coming up, just a overall comment. I don't believe there's going to be any decision made this evening. This is a continuing discussion. So we're taking input, a lot of good thoughts coming out. Yes, sir.
So I guess one thing was brought up, the rates,
Name.
kind of comparable cities.
Your name again.
Oh, I'm sorry, James Cleveland, 173 Washington Street. So Amherst, Massachusetts, I would say is fairly comparable to Keene. It's also a city that has a college right next to it, has a downtown. The population's a little bit more, but the income's about the same. So they're 47,000. In 2011, Keene was 47,000. Now their rates are the same for their on-street meters as Keene currently is. So I'm not sure that the rates are really that low. I feel like they're comparable to a very similar area. One thing too, it was mentioned that the commercial lots were underutilized. If that's indeed true, maybe the rates shouldn't go up on those at all. I mean, if the goal is to encourage turnover on street, I mean, that would probably be where to raise it, and that would further incentivize people to park off street. And then one thing too is brought up, the fire station. Now, what about the courthouse though? Didn't the courthouse reduce the number of parking spots?
Ms. Lamoureaux?
Sure. I was also involved in that process. The parking lot that was at the courthouse, the city of Keene had either 11 or 12 spaces that was being utilized by the public, and then we had some reserved spaces within that lot. The majority of the parking that was in that lot was by the state and the county employees, and along with the sheriff's department. The county at that point had taken a lot of their parking issues. Of course, they tore down the Latches Theater. They were leasing space over at the old middle school here while the construction was going on. And I don't know the exact number, but they put the majority of their parking back in that lot underneath their building, and they're utilizing the Latches Theater. We, as the lease spaces that the library was using, has been relocated to the Gilbo East lot. And we also have a few spaces that we're leasing across the street at the same rate from a private owner. And the additional parking that was just completed between the Winter Street and School Street and Middle Street, where they did the construction last year, we did have a net gain of parking in that area. So it almost balanced out from the decrease of that lot, or the diminishing of that lot, to where we are today.
And I guess the last point I wanted to make, the free parking during Christmas, I mean, what if we did away with the rates and we just enforced